Okay. Are we all set to begin with cross-examination?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Krakowski.
Okay, I would like to first ask you, and there won't be many questions here because I
Okay.
don't think much of the testimony is relevant to the case as we talked about. Ms. Pfeiffer, you stated that there was a personality conflict between both Charnay Sherry and Dr. Savadison. Is that right?
Object mischaracterizes her testimony.
You just rephrase the question, Ms. Krakowski.
Did she have a personality conflict, in your opinion, with Dr. Savadison?
And you're talking about Ms. Sherry, correct?
Yes. So, in your opinion, did Charnay Sherry have a personality conflict with Dr. Savadison?
I wouldn't call it a personality conflict.
Okay, and you testified earlier that she had problems with other people. Is that right?
Correct.
Who is
Sorry,
she?
Yep.
I'm sorry, Dr. Savadison had a problem with other people that she worked with. Can
Correct.
you give me a little bit more information about that?
There would be certain times where someone would upset her, whether it was in the operating room or outside of the operating room, and then she would target that individual.
Can you tell me about any of who those people are?
Anna Galowski.
Do you know how to spell it, Galowski?
Gawloski.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Gawlo?
Ski.
Thank you.
So just
Roy
to interject, Your Honor, my understanding, we were precluded from offering evidence of other individuals who complained about Dr. Zavidazan. This is opening the door to that, in my view. So will we have an opportunity then to explore the complaints that other employees had?
Well, when you say precluded, is this from an objection you made today, or are you asking about something else? Are you talking about something else?
There was a objection today, yesterday, and even before the hearing, there was objection that we were not allowed to get into complaints by employees other than Ms. Sherry. So if there's an issue about mistreatment, then it would seem to open the door to that.
Well, I don't remember precluding you. I think I said to narrow your focus on what was actually relevant, and I would advise Ms. Krakowski to do the same. Unless you're talking about an order that I made previously.
Okay. All right. I'll take that advice. Thank you.
Okay, so you would agree that there were other people that had conflicts with Dr. Savadison?
Yes.
And besides Anna Galowski, Gawlowski, anyone else that you can remember?
Roy Carter.
And do you remember how his last name is spelled?
Carter.
And anyone else that you can think of?
Anastasia Powderly. ANNASTASIA. POWDERLY.
And anyone else that you can think of?
And then there was another PA, Bridget.
Do you remember her last name?
It's eluding me right now.
That's okay. We can get back to that later
Okay.
if you remember. And it sounds like there was a personality conflict with Dr. Savadison and others that you recall. Would you characterize the,
Object, facts not stated in evidence.
well, we just had the witness testify that there were personality conflicts in her opinion with others.
No,
Rephrase.
those were the lawyer's words. I didn't hear that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Would you characterize the problems that she had with Anna, Roy, Anistia? Is that how you pronounce
Anastasia.
it? Anastasia. And Bridget as a conflict, at least, with Dr. Savadison?
Conflict, yes. I don't think a personality conflict. I think she would just target individuals.
Okay. And do you remember any issues with regard to those other people that you've just named having an issue staying employed with Froedtert South?
Bridget did quit.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit more about that?
She would call Bridget at all hours of the day and night. And her negative behavior towards her just led her to quit.
Do you know about what time that was? And include in terms of the month and the year?
I can't tell you the month and the year that was, no.
Do you know the year?
I want to say around 2017. And again, that's an estimate. I can't tell you if
Sure.
that's correct.
Okay. And do you know the reasons for the separation of employment between Froedtert South and Charnay Sherry?
I know that she was removed from the cardiac services and was at home for a few months, but then after that, I don't know the details of what happened.
And do you know that she chose to leave Froedtert South based on the fact that she didn't want to work with Dr. Savadison?
My understanding was that she was going to be removed from the cardiac services, but placed in another area, and that didn't happen. So I know then she took a position in Milwaukee.
And what was that position?
She is a PA at St. Luke's in Milwaukee.
And are you aware that she was not asked to leave Froedtert South?
I don't know those details.
Are you aware of the fact that she was offered other positions within Froedtert South?
I was not given that information.
So you don't know whether she left to have another position in another place, which sounds like St. Luke's from your testimony, or whether she was told to leave. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you had no problem working with Charnay Sherry, from what it sounds like.
Right. No problems at all.
And you have also stated that you had a good relationship in general, and if you had a choice, would you have wanted Charnay Sherry to not resign her employment?
If I had my choice for her to stay on the cardiac team, yes, I would have loved to have continued to work with her.
In your opinion, did you think that she left of her own volition, of her own decision?
Object, asked and
No.
answered. The witness has repeatedly testified she doesn't have personal knowledge of the separation.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, so the only thing I want to go back to is one of the pieces of evidence and exhibit. I'm trying to find the number. Okay, so we're looking at ERD exhibit 0023. We could pull that up, please, Judge.
Do you know what set of exhibits that's in? Was that the complainant's first set?
If it helps, I can screen share it.
If you have easier access, the first set I have starting at 0153. So yeah, if you have easy access, otherwise I'm going to have to go through like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these to find it.
So that was Deb, was that the last one?
I think it was the second last one.
So complainant's exhibit 47 at 342
Okay.
or complainant's exhibit 17 at 235.
I think it was 235. I
Okay, so
have
it's
it listed as
the exhibit
ERD
that
0023.
okay, so the exhibit that you were objecting to receipt of, correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay, let me pull that up.
I believe I can pull it up too now. I found it.
Okay,
So do you want me to do that?
sure.
Okay. Okay. Does everyone see that?
Yep, I'm trying to enlarge it a little bit here.
Okay, just let me know what page you need to go to. You still see it?
I'm looking for the page. I don't know why I'm not able to enlarge it right now, but I'm looking.
Is everyone else able to see it?
I can see it.
Okay.
I can see Exhibit 17, but I can't scroll down and
No,
I
I have
see
to
if
scroll
I
down for you. So just let me know where you want to go in the exhibit. I have control
okay.
of it now.
Okay, so at the very bottom of the, actually, I'm not sure we're on the right exhibit, but it's, let's see, Exhibit 0023.
So exhibit 23 you want?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. The book bird. Do you know what bait stamp that starts with?
I
This is
believe it
exhibit
was
26.
0023.
Okay, so is this your exhibit then? Because the response exhibits are those numbers. The complainants start with like 153. This looks like.
Actually, if you remember, you asked me not to bait stamp mine so that we could have it.
All of the exhibits were bait stamped.
Right.
by
I
our
mean,
office,
after
right.
I submitted them, then you asked me to the ERD would be allowed to bait stamp them. So I'm looking at an exhibit that was brought in today from Attorney Olson, and I'm looking for the one I've got a pile of exhibits here, but
We can go to exhibit 23 if that's, we went to
I think that
0235, or we went to 0235, that was 17, and it was like that email.
okay, so
This is a transcribed voicemail. That's what exhibit 23 is.
it was an exhibit that was entered in, or at least proposed to enter in today.
Okay,
And
so
it
I
was
have,
a text message, and I'm losing track because it's a little hard to do with the fact that we're on obviously remote access here.
okay.
Hmm.
So so then C17 was May 8th to May 31st emails. So, but you're not looking for emails.
No, I was
Um,
looking for
So then we
a text
before that, we
message.
talked about complainants 47. I believe that was text messaging.
It ends in 0233, but it's complainants exhibit 000170.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. It's complainants exhibit 000170. And he admitted it today.
And you said it was 2, and then the debates numbers were 233.
Right, 0233. I think we marked it as exhibit 15.
Okay, well, I'm going to move to 233 right now. Here's 16. That would be where 233 is. I can move back up to 15, but okay, so here's 233. It is it's the bait stamp. It's part of exhibit 16.
Okay.
Do you want me to go back to the top of this exhibit?
Yes, please.
Okay, I believe that's the top of the exhibit then. So this is emails. You want to go up to 15?
Oh, it is a text message, and I'm trying to find it's exhibit 15, and I'm having a hard time.
This is 15 now, so I'm going back to the beginning of it. Okay, so these are April 17th, 18 to 5/23/18 texts. So this was I think the first exhibit that may have been discussed today.
Okay. And could you go down to the very bottom of that, please?
Okay, this is the last page of this. I know that we talked about this spiraling even more lately. If you want me to scroll up, I can.
Just for whatever reason, I'm having because I can't scroll up. So
Okay, so do you want me to scroll up some more?
yes, please. Okay.
More?
Sorry, my daughter's calling me, and she is the one that just tested positive for COVID. Let me just try to. I know I'll be taking a break soon, so I can call her. Okay. All right.
Okay, do you know what the content was that you're looking for? Maybe we can try to get there that way.
Sure. It was an email.
Was it an email or was it a text?
I'm sorry, a text from Angie that said, I will stand behind you up for you or whatever is needed. And then there is information regarding the fact that the
Here. Is this it?
I think it is. Yep. Thank you. Okay, so Angie, is this your text message in the gray area in this exhibit?
No.
Can you explain a little bit about what you were texting about in this message?
This is when, you know, Charnay was, Dr. Sivadasan had been, you know, saying things about Charnay. And I believe at this point, Charnay was removed from the CV service and having lots of meetings with administration. And I just wanted her to know that, like, that we supported her in whatever she needed, you know, from us as a team, and that I had respect for her.
Okay, so you did support her in remaining employed at Froedtert South.
I didn't state that. I supported her in whatever that you know she needed. If she needed us to talk to administration about instances that happened that you know we may have to explain, that was the kind of support. I didn't get involved with whether she was going to stay or whether she was going to leave.
But you supported her in general.
In general, I supported her, yes.
Did you talk to anybody about that?
You know, I don't think I talked to one person in general. That was just the feel of the cardiac team, was that Charnay was pleasant to work with. Everyone respected her and her talents. So if she needed anything from any of us, we would support her that way.
And who did you talk to about that?
I didn't personally find someone to talk to. That was just the feel in the discussions that the heart team had. It was a team as a whole. So all members of the team felt that way.
And when you say that way, what do you mean by that?
That they would support Charnay if she needed it.
What is your understanding about supporting her if she needed it? Can you explain that?
If administration were to ask us if Charnay had done something, you know, we would give them that information. If administration had come to us and asked about her skill, we would have given them that information. If they would have come to us and asked us about something that maybe happened with Dr. Sivadasan and we knew about, we would, you know, explain that as well. So that was the type of, you know, support.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Thank you very much for your testimony, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Redirect?
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing. Okay, so is this witness, I don't know if she was subpoenaed, but is she free to be released from her subpoena or otherwise free to go about her day?
She's free to go about her business.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you.
All right. So I know that you said you had one more witness and that was the complainant, correct, Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Okay, and it's 11:40, so I think this is naturally a good time to take a lunch break.
Okay.
Okay, so about an hour again, just like yesterday, so we can start up again at 12:40.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Does that work?
All
It
right.
does.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Oh,
Back.
okay. Okay, we are
Thank you.
back on the we are back on the record. This is case number 2018-02354. Sherry versus Froedtert South. This is the fourth day of hearing. We are now in the afternoon on the fourth day of hearing. All right, Mr. Olson, your next witness.
The complainant attorney, Sherry, will testify.
Okay, Ms. Sherry, can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Sherry, I'd like to start by showing on the screen Complainant's Exhibit 1. This has not been offered previously. It is at ERD 0153. And this is a copy of your resume. I think it'll streamline the process if we can just identify this document as to your work history and your educational background, and then if there's anything that needs to be updated on it. So looking at under the work experience, does that accurately reflect your work experience?
Can I just ask a question? Attorney Olson, you said that it has not been submitted previously?
It hasn't been offered. It's our exhibit number 1 that was identified and
State stamp number 153.
Okay,
provided.
good. Thank you.
Yes, that's my accurate work history.
Okay. And where it says structural heart physician assistant 2019 to present, that's accurate?
Correct.
Okay. And with respect to your education section, is that accurate?
Correct.
All right. And under awards and certifications, is that area accurate?
I had several awards since I started at St. Luke's.
Okay. What are those?
In 2019, I was awarded the Award of Excellence, given to a select few of providers at St. Luke's. And then in 2020, I was nominated for APC, which is Advanced Practice Provider Award. So I was nominated for that.
And tell us a little bit about what your plans were as a physician's assistant when you initially underwent your education and training for that, what your plans were going forward.
So I knew I wanted to become a cardiac surgery provider since high school. And it was either going to med school or PA school. I ultimately went the PA route. So I had a little more flexibility and a shorter schooling time. So I always knew I wanted to do cardiac surgery. That was the whole intention of going to school. And then once I finished PA school, I took a job with CTVSA, which is a large private cardiac surgery and thoracic vascular as well, out of Chicago, which was a great first job. I worked at 6 different hospitals with 2 different states. And I think I worked with probably close to 15 surgeons at that time. So I got a lot of experience. I got to experience how a multitude of surgeons preferred their cases to be done. I got to expose to a lot of different administrations, a lot of different OR teams, a lot of different ICU teams, how different surgeons manage things. It was a great first job. I worked a ton with that, unfortunately with that, but it was great first experience. I learned quite a bit.
And what prompted you to take the job with Froedtert South?
So I was up in Appleton at the time. Unfortunately, when I joined Appleton, that hospital was being taken over by Ascension at the same time. Ascension kind of dissolved the cardiac surgery team. Unfortunately, when I first joined, there was 2 surgeons, 2 PAs, 2 nurse practitioners, and a first assist. Within a year and a half of them, of Ascension taking over, the whole team kind of was dissolved, and they only were left with 1 surgeon and 1 first assist. All the rest of the APCs left and the other surgeon left. So I wanted to be closer to home. I'm from Chicago and my husband's family's from Milwaukee. So Kenosha seemed a perfect fit to be in between both of our families and to have a cardiac surgery team. I think Froedtert South had a lot to offer. They had a lot of potential for cardiac surgery. And that was intriguing to me because there wasn't a lot of cardiac surgery programs in that area. So you can really build up a large program if you wanted to.
And in your experience, how long does it take for someone in your job to develop cardiac surgery skills?
At least a year to get the surgical skills done. We take vein independently for bypass surgeries. We do first assist, we close the chest. So you need at least 1 year to be on your own typically. And then I say by the time I was decent at my job, it was probably 2-3 years.
And in your experience, when I use the term surgery skills getting rusty or atrophying, do you know what that means?
I do.
Okay, and what is your experience in that regard?
I think the surgeon I work for now says it best. He says, after 1 week of not operating, you notice the difference. After 2 weeks of operating, everyone else knows the difference. I think your skills really start atrophying. If I wouldn't feel comfortable taking vein now without a backup PA. But within a couple months, you notice a sharp decline in what you're able to do or comfortable with.
Did you work with Dr. Savita before you went to Froedtert South?
So she was part of the Cardiothoracic and Vascular Surgical Associates in my first job. It was a large team or a large program. There was probably around 20 surgeons, probably a little less than that. So she was part of that team. I worked with her on occasion with that program.
Okay. And at that program, how was your relationship with Dr. Savita?
It was good. We didn't really have to interact all the time. So we saw each other in the OR mostly. And that's how I knew her, was in the OR and doing her first assisting for a program mostly, I would say.
All right. And I'd like to show you complainant's exhibit number 2, which is at ERD 0156. It is the January 2016 FSI employment contract. I believe this was offered through Ms. Ventura, if I recall correctly. And I'll go to the 16th page of the document. Is that your signature that appears on the contract at ERD 0168?
It is.
All right, and this was your employment contract with Froedtert South?
It is.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your job duties, and we'll look at complainant's exhibit 3 for that. And this is at ERD 0173. It's complainant's daily duties. can you identify this list?
I can.
All right, and what is this?
It was a list of duties I was asked to create on what my responsibilities are for this cardiac surgery clinic
At Froedtert South?
at Froedtert South, correct?
Okay, and when did you create this approximately?
I want to say it was probably like 2017.
All right. And going now to ERD 0176, which is Complainants Exhibit 4. Can you identify what this document is?
Yes, this is the duties for the CV surgery PA written by Dr. Sivaдаsan, which I don't know which version this is. She had rewrote it probably a dozen times while I was there.
And does this document have any significance in terms of what you were doing and what was listed here?
It was fairly accurate on what was going on. It didn't have all the things I was doing on it, but it encompassed most of it.
Okay. And now we're looking at Complainants Exhibit 5, which is ERD 0178.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Uh-huh.
With respect to the last exhibit, Exhibit 4, you said that there were the duties for your position as created by Dr. Sivaдаsan. And you weren't sure exactly what the date was on those. What was that document created while you were employed at Froedtert South?
Correct.
Okay, so sometime during your employment, you recognize that as a document that was created?
Yeah,
Okay.
I know the revised one with my notes on it was, this next exhibit was probably in 2018, April or May.
Okay. All right,
And
sorry to
and the-
interrupt. I just wanted that for the record.
Actually, for the record, could I also have the numbers of the exhibits that we've been through, because we're going through them fairly quickly? I have ERD 168, ERD 173, and then can you repeat the next two, please?
There was Exhibit C4, which started on ERD 176, and Exhibit C, Complainants Exhibit 5, which started at ERD Bait Stamp 178.
Thank you.
All right, and so we're now on Exhibit 5, and can you identify the handwriting on the document?
That's my handwriting.
Okay, and why did you put handwriting on this?
This was during a meeting that was held that Dr. Sivaдаsan wanted to adjust the duties again on what was expected. So those are the notes I had that we discussed during the meeting. So it was myself, Dr. Sivaдаsan, Bessa, and the 2 new nurse practitioners that started probably a month prior, as well as I think Brandy Ford was there as well, which is our director.
Okay, and you're okay with the revised list?
She would, who knows how long that list was going to be in effect, but yes, it was fine, other than she adjusted, adding on mandatory weekend surgical coverage.
All right. And now we're moving to Complainants Exhibit 7.
What was the Bates on the first page?
Just a moment, please. First page of Exhibit 7 is ERD 0192.
Thank you.
I misspoke. It's actually 193.
Okay, thanks.
And these are August 8 and 9, 2017 emails. And before we get into those, I'll ask you some more general questions. Was there a change that you observed in Dr. Sivadathan as time went on while you worked together at Froedtert South?
For sure.
What were the changes or change that you observed?
So as the other testimonies relayed, she was not the most easily surgeon to work for. She was very aggressive, and she lashed out quite often at other employees, and she blamed a lot of people. In the beginning, it seemed like she had a rough week where she kind of was a little more aggressive towards other employees and staff about once a month for a week, and then it would kind of cool off for a while. And then by the end of 2017, it seemed like it was escalating fairly quickly. And then by 2018, not only was it just her being aggressive towards other staff members and employees, but it started eroding into patient care as well. Starting in January of 2018, I started noticing that she wasn't paying attention to what she was doing. There was pretty large mistakes that were made, and I was starting to get concerned about patient safety. There's times when we had a patient pass away in February, and that's when I got really concerned about what was going on. And then unfortunately that continued to escalate, where it seemed like she became more and more aggressive and more trying to think of a word, scary to work with, based on patient care.
Did you bring your concerns about patient care to anyone in management or administration?
Many times.
All right, and we've got records of it, but can you generally describe that process that you went through?
So I would say I got pretty involved with reporting things to administration in April of 2018. Probably that first week in April, when things started getting really bad with patient care.
Who did you talk to?
I originally started talking to Brandy Ford.
And she's HR?
She is the manager or the director of our program over CT surgery.
Oh, okay, that's right. Thank you. And did you actually meet with Ms. Ford?
Multiple occasions during April.
And
that's
can you
April
just-
2018, correct?
Correct.
And we'll get into the documents and get into a little bit more detail, but at this point, can you give us more of an overview of what you discussed with Ms. Ford?
I originally started off with just talking about her, Dr. Sivadathan's aggression, and how it was escalating towards staff members, myself, Bessa, the OR staff, the ICU nursing staff, and that she was acting a little irrational at times. And then I started showing her some of the more concerning patient findings with the patient death that recently occurred. We had a couple of readmissions to the hospital from our patients because of mismanagement and things like that. And her just making just poor decisions based on patient care.
Was there a time period during which you communicated with Ms. Ford and then it stopped, or were you working with her all the way through the end of your employment?
So I worked with her starting mostly in April, and then that continued. She asked me to start looping in Nick Galich as well, and then that escalated to Nick Galich and Susan Ventura. So I worked with probably Nick and Susan along with Brandy probably by mid to end of April of 2017. Brandy was in and out of the clinic. She had some personal things going on. So she had an interim director, Michelle Clemens, that was filling in on occasion. So that kind of was tough to deal with, having consistent people to work with.
All right, and how many times would you estimate you spoke with Ms. Ford or Mr. Galich or Ms. Ventura about Dr. Sivadathan?
Probably, if you include emails and verbally, probably over a dozen.
Okay. And did you address your clinical concerns with Mr. Galich or with Ms. Ventura?
Yes.
Okay. And did they tell you to take any specific action when you brought your concerns to them?
They did. They asked me if I noticed either just her behavior or clinical concerns to email them or contact them immediately. They wanted to kind of they told me they want to catch it in real time. So I did the best I could with keeping them informed in real time. At the end of it, they asked me to present information to both Dr. Fullen, who is the chief of cardiovascular services, as well as Dr. Trimark, who's the CMIO.
And did you ultimately do that?
I did.
And again, just with an overview, did you provide any documentation to either Dr. Trimark or Dr. Fullen?
I did. So when I emailed all of those concerns, I included the patient's MRN numbers. And then when we had a large meeting at the end of May with Dr. Fullen, Chris Leslie, the vice president of the OR, I believe, Nick Galich and Susan Ventura and myself, I gave them an entire folder of all the printed out patient records and my notes with all those patient records to Dr. Fullen and that meeting.
And did they state to you, any of the doctors or people in the administration, any things that they were going to do that could correct the problems that you were reporting?
They kept saying that they would they were going to handle it, and they were having meetings with her, and that they didn't really give any specifics. They just kept saying that they were taking care of it, but it ultimately didn't seem like anything was getting taken care of.
Did you see any change toward or in your presence after they communicated or after you complained about Dr. Sivadathan?
Her behavior got much worse towards me.
And how was that?
She started having more and more meetings with the cardiac OR. She started just making things up and telling basically anyone who wanted to listen whatever she wanted about me. She started telling people that I was fired. She told people that she was having me removed. It was just very aggressive behavior. She started yelling at me. She called me a stupid PA. A lot of F-bombs.
We heard testimony earlier today that there are surgeons who drop the F-bomb with their problems that arise or whatever in surgery. In your experience in working with surgeons, did you see any difference in the way that Dr. Sivadathan either conducted herself or spoke in the operating room?
Very much so. So I worked probably, at this point, I've worked with 20, 25 surgeons. I've never had a surgeon swear at me or seen a surgeon swear at another person. It's usually just like a, oh crap kind of situation or a swear, but never directed at a person.
And what did you see with Dr. Sivadathan in that regard?
Well, she was swearing directly at people on a daily basis.